the work he did. And his nationwide, he's got 75 or 36 newspapers. And his goal, he said, is to strengthen and increase the number of community workers. He's not violent if you get himself in somewhere, distributed it. He's find everybody.
Yeah. It's been like 84 minutes. Yeah.
Incredible asset. So thank you.
84 worst minutes of my life.
Okay.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. Appreciate you making the time. It has been a wonderful day, not only because the weather is great, but because we've had the opportunity to engage in some pretty excellent conversations with three wonderful candidates that I'm excited for all of you to get to meet and ask some other questions of. So our first candidate this evening is Mr. Jim DeBrew. I'm going to let Jim introduce himself briefly, and then you'll all have an opportunity to ask Jim some questions for about 25 to 30 minutes. So thank you much. Let's welcome Mr. DeBrew.
Good evening, everyone. I mean, I have to tell you, this turnout is amazing. Thank you for coming. I'm Jim DeBrew. I'm a Manitowoc native. Career educator. I spent the vast majority of that career teaching history and economics. For the vast majority of that time, over 20 years, I taught in Random Lake. It's a rural Sheboygan County school district. But for the last 5, it's been my great pleasure to be the middle school and high school principal at Gibraltar School District, which if you know Door County, if you draw a line from Egg Harbor to Bailey's Harbor, everything north of there except for the island, that's us. So, huge bust school district, a small district, but one that reminds me of a lot of things here. A district with incredible community support, an incredible history of academic excellence, a small school that supports comprehensive options for students, and really a place that is center of the community, not just when it's icy like it is up there still. I hope we got some melting. But I'll be honest, I'm just overwhelmed today. The resources, the people, the community, this is just, I'm very flattered and including just flattered to have you all here. And happy to take any questions you have. Yes.
Sir?
Hello.
Where do you see electives, specifically CTE electives, fitting into the big picture of a high school?
Well, I think they're mission critical. Again, I know I teach at a school district where, I've seen your stats too, where 75 to 80% of the kids may be talking about doing a 4-year or 2-year school. But number one, CTE classes are college prep classes. When I think about my students who, whether it be as a teacher or as a principal, who are talking to me about, I want to be an engineer, and they've got math and science classes up to their head, I say, well, what have you done in the real world? Now, just the things I think of is CAD classes or again, building something. I think they're huge. We have a unique challenge in American education to be this incredibly well-rounded piece, and I think about other things beyond CTE, but whether it be business classes or computer science or family and consumer. I'll be honest, I hate to say it, I've almost been in education for 30 years. It's been 25 since I've had a colleague who's a family and consumer ed teacher. And yet, I've had feedback in my own school that say, our kids aren't ready for what's next. Well, I'll tell you what. They're not telling me that it's not that they're earning dual credits with us or things like that. They're talking about the basics, right? So to me, it's all part. It's all part. And for so many kids, those classes are their connectors. That's their safe space. That's the thing they need. I would always be willing to work, and I'll be honest, sometimes it's a challenge. Like, I lost my computer science teacher and I couldn't find somebody to replace him. That's a huge loss. No, I think they're mission critical. It's just part of it. If we're going to continue to be comprehensive high schools, we have to attend to all of those things and make them equal partners. I know the math and the English stuff is always up front, but it's everything. Other question? Yes, please.
How have you had to deal with budget cuts in the past?
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest. They often talk about the three-legged stool of finance, school finance, and you'd be lying. You can look at Gibraltar and you'll see a lot of really good things. You'll also see that guy hasn't had to deal with that. Because guess what? I live in a super high property tax area and they're almost totally self-funded. But, right, I lived in Random Lake where one of our phrases used to be, it's bake sale time, right? I think there's a couple pieces, okay? I think we have to be really efficient with what we do use, and we have to acknowledge that one of our biggest and most consistent costs is our personnel. And I think when I look at what Ron's been doing and what Ripon's doing, and this is not just what I see, this is what I felt today. The way that this district is supporting staff, okay, and making sure that they are coming back. I mean, the replacement rate is challenging. Probably our biggest thing that I deal with right now is I need to flex. Right now, again, I'm in a small district and I'm the 6 through 12 principal. And right now, my population bump is at the middle school. And I've got to flex staff down that way. And I hate to say it, but if you dig underneath, middle school classes are of their nature bigger and there's less positions. And I have to understand that, particularly in an expensive place like I live, like Door County, that if I tell someone they're part-time, that probably means they're not going to stay. Those are really hard conversations to have. And I think we've always had to come back. Again, I'm not running for office, so I don't need to talk about school funding that much, but I mean, look at what we've done statewide to try and pass operating referendums and those sort of things. It's a broken system, but it's the system we have right now, and we have to sometimes make really hard decisions to make sure that we can keep things even through cuts. I think what people have to understand too, though, is when you start cutting programs, you might just be losing that kid's passion. You might lose their reason for why they're coming to school. You might even lose what their next career is. So they're hard decisions. I think you tighten the belt, you look for inefficiencies. And I think the last thing I'd say is, if your ultimate decisions are made based on what is best for kids, you're usually going to come up with the right answer. Thank you for that question. Yes?
At your current position, what have you done to help foster school culture?
School culture. Well, there's multiple things I would say. So one of the things I've been, and some of these things are district-wide initiatives, but one of the things that we have done to really try and be an inclusive and welcoming place is we've started to have, and again, I'm 4K-12 under one roof, started to build in really intentionally how we connect kids at a tier 1 level. What does everybody get? We currently use a program called Character Strong from our 4K through our 12th graders. That has helped us identify the things that we are doing to sort of keep that baseline and that most important foundational level, which is connection. It's funny, sometimes people even push back. They'll say, my seniors, Mr. Brew, we've been together since we were in kindergarten. I don't need to know if they like waffles or pancakes, okay? Maybe not that, but that's selling it short, right? That connectedness and that ability, and I think approachability is really important. I don't know how to give you a metric for approachability, but I'll tell you a story I've told a couple times in interviews today that I think was the biggest sign that I'm like, this is a school culture that's cooking. This year, we have a group of peer leaders at the high school, and they do all sorts of things, tutoring after school. They do AODA work with other high schools in the area. But they came to us, we're currently in our schedule, we have an advisory period at the end of the day. And they said, Mr. Rue, we need to have a little bit more fun. Can you give us one Wednesday a month where we do class versus class competitions? That is the easiest yes ever. But by the way, we still went through, we're gonna go present it to the high school staff. Easiest yes ever, right? And we've got students who are excited. Students who stop by the office and say, wait, what are we doing this month? Okay? And it's anything from the silliness of marshmallow spaghetti tower building to Mario Kart competitions or those sort of things. But you know what? Kids are excited about it. They ask about what's next. And sometimes you might look at my school and think, things seem a little bit loose, but you know what? The kids are there, and they're working hard, and they're coming together. And I think my favorite part, I've been in schools where kids have, even in a curated way, from a student council, have had things bubble up and be like, hey, can we do this? And heads have it shut down. To have that bubble up and come right to you is one of the biggest verifications of we've got a culture that works here that I've ever had. And I've talked about it, not just here, but with colleagues too. It's exciting. Culture is really different things to different kids. One of my best, the one metric I think is I look at how many of our kids are involved in activities. You know, and it was great when I was walking around with the kids, they were talking about some of the things that have been added. Like we talked about esports, for me that's been a great one. Like I've got 6, 7 kids that had never done anything else at school, but that is it. And you know what? They went and were 3rd in the state in Super Smash Brothers Ultimate. Does that mean anything to you? Sure does to them, right? So finding those ways to connect, another reason for them to wear the school colors, to feel great, and to be recognized. It's huge. Connection matters. It matters more than anything. So I thank you for that question. Yes, sir.
How do we navigate the future of education in the universe of AI?
Well, so I'm a history guy. I'm guessing at some point we ask this question about various iterations of tech. There's no doubt there's some pieces of it that are ominous. But to me, I think ultimately, I'm a positivist. And I like to see things positively. Be lying to tell you if I didn't tell you I'm using AI to help me. It's been enormous. As long as I can use proper guidelines, this is very serious, but proper guidance in order to keep confidentiality, but as a data cruncher, as things that are, you know, quite frankly, challenging and beyond my knowledge. I believe it's a tool, and I think we go headlong into it, and the most important thing we do is teach staff, teach kids how to use it appropriately. You talk about the digital citizenship elements of it. I think we have to. To me, that's part of the future of education. And I don't think it just has to be about efficiencies, because that's the stuff that jumps out really, really fast. They can do this faster. I think part of it too is, you know, what do they say? Like, you say about computers, computer's only as smart as the operator. The same thing is true of an AI. Like, you write terrible queries, it's not going to give you much. Yeah. And so I think we need to continue to practice and run headlong into it, not like how people talked about Google or. Heck, my dad was an IBM guy, and they used to program on punch cards, you know. And he still amazed me. You're like, we adjust. He told me he could hold up a punch card and tell if it was wrong. I'm like, well, I know I couldn't do that now, but you know, technology changes, but I think we've got to continue to embrace and hopefully trust that we are giving the kids the information to use it well. Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's right on the cutting edge of what we're talking about as administrators and our associations and certainly our teachers. Yeah, that's great. Yes?
What is your leadership style in dealing with parents, staff, and students?
Well, first of all, I'm just going to say that I am a firm believer that communication is the absolute foundation of all of those things. And I also know that people are looking for communication in different methods, different ways, and it lands different for different people. And so my approach for communication is often yes and, right? It's just like you guys have a great local weekly newspaper that I know people read. When I used to be in Random Lake, we had the Sound. And I knew that there were 10-15% of the public that if I wanted to reach them, that was the way to reach them. I know some people need a call. I know some people need a sit down. I know some people need an email. And I'll be honest, it can feel overwhelming at times. But I think if you can start laying the foundations of those basic pieces, right? Systems, information, all those sort of things, lay those out as a baseline, then it allows you to have the communications, I think, particularly as I think about with the community. I hope you guys know how unique and special this community is, that this group of people is here right now tonight. I mean, I would come and talk with you all anytime. And it's just, there's a lot of communities where if this was put out, I'd be taking home a plate of cookies. Okay, so thank you for being here. With staff, it's an collegial approach. And what I mean by that is, I've said it from the first day I was an administrator. I believed that. I thought the administrators that led best were the administrators who took this approach. Nobody is as smart as all of us together. I don't think I preach from the mountaintop and have all the ideas. I believe, particularly at the high school, I work with content experts who know their material like nobody else. And I'm going to lean on them to try and guide us to the best decisions that serve kids. With kids, I'll be honest, like, this is my foundational idea. I'm sorry, I am an administrator in a small district, so a lot of my kid interactions, I wish I could tell you it's all celebratory and fist bumps, but a lot of it is behavior conversations. And my baseline there is behavior is communication. So I'm able to take the time and sit down and try and figure out where for it. I also think if kids are falling short, behaviorally, academically, just like any of our teachers, that is an opportunity to grow. That's an educational opportunity, right? And I think our kids need that more than ever. I want to have clarity and consistency, but behaviors, communication, I want to try and find a way to support each and every kid. I mean, this district makes it an absolute commitment and puts the resource in place to educate every student. And I think sometimes we need to step back and really think about what that means. Totally, every student. And it's something I believe in. It's part of the reason I'm here. And speaking to you all about this job. I hope I covered all three. Yes?
So, off topic from your skills, being a historian buff,
Yeah.
if you could go back to any time in history,
Oh.
event, what would you do? And where?
Okay, this is, oh, I love that question. So, 20 years I taught AP European history, and sadly, I have trouble. Sorry, this is the side that's in my head right now. My youngest is in Dublin right now, which is kind of amazing, and I just see pictures, but I have never been to Italy, and my favorite thing, I love teaching art history, and I particularly love church architecture, and so if I go anywhere, high Northern Renaissance, Florence.
Da Vinci, Michelangelo? Which one?
I mean, I'm a Michelangelo guy myself. Again, by the way, bear with me. I always say, I love art that I know I can't do. Now that is a very low bar when you get to know me. But you know, I look at something like Michelangelo's data and I just say, or the Pieta, and I'm like, oh my. I can't imagine. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that. That'd be me. Thank you for that question.
Did you see our flyer in the library?
No, I didn't.
Da Vinci flyer.
Oh, yes, I did. I'm sorry. My brain is so out of it that when you said flyer, I was thinking about a threefold like this. Of course I did. Of course I saw it. Sorry. Frame of reference, right? There you go. All right. No, absolutely I did. Yeah, that would be my pick. So. Yes?
As somebody who's been an administrator, I'm curious, like, can you talk about a time that something might not have gone right and how you're able to learn from it? Like, can you give an example of something that you were able to?
I hope you're remembering all these questions for the next one.
I'm trying.
Yeah, honestly, I was going to say the same thing, because these have been wonderful.
Yeah.
So please ask each, honestly, it'll be a great comparative. So, sorry, Jim.
No, boy, okay. I'm going to ask, a little bit roundabout, but one of my deep philosophies, and it relates to that idea of notice as smart as all is together, I also believe that we learn from our mistakes, and we tell kids that all the time, and then we don't give ourselves permission to do the same as educators. And it's one of the things I lean into a lot with my staff is I'm going to be vulnerability forward. I make mistakes. I make mistakes daily. And I try to learn from them. I mean, I'm thinking of so many. There's systemic ones. There's schedule ones. There's how I handled that person ones. And I think it's part of the human lived experience, isn't it? It's like we try and chalk it up and learn from the next. A simple one, but that's a front of mind this week, because just like my kids are taking the ACT next Tuesday too. And what do you think about? Well, we're going classrooms, we're going space, we're going this. Well, first year we went space, right? Get them all together, we're going to have great Wi-Fi in there, because, they're making you click, click, click. Well, if I could tell you how loud the univents are in the mural gym, I would say, boy, that was a bad idea. And my guess is, if I had asked the question, and I think here's the big lesson in it. I was new, but I guarantee you somebody, whether it was a janitor or another teacher or somebody, by the way, that gym's on the elementary wing, knew that. And if I had just taken the time to maybe shop that idea around, I could have avoided a bad. Now the good news, that was a pre-ACT day. That was a fall practice, but whew, that was a one and done. And I learned and marked, and I'll be honest, we've done a lot of, we're going through a referendum project, and one thing I want to share is that our school toured this school to figure out what to do. And I'm telling you, they stole some good stuff, but they left some better stuff behind. This is a gorgeous facility. It's amazing. But where to test has been something to navigate in the middle of a construction thing. And this is the weird part of Door County. For the last several years, we've been doing most of our testing across the street in the Peninsula School of Art, which is well lit, quite lovely, quiet, and as long as I drive the snacks across the street, the numbers have been pretty good. So, yeah. But there's lots, and I think reflective leaders are always looking to learn and grow. Oh, thank you, yeah.
As a new administrator in the building, how did you get to know your staff and build camaraderie amongst them?
This hits on something I talk about, multiple means of communication. What I have learned from doing this is that your best laid plan will catch many, but not all, right? And the one I shared with them is I thought 5 years ago, July 1, here I am sitting in the office and thinking about how am I going to connect to staff. You know what's really hard to do in Door County in summer? Connect with staff because they're working. Because that's how you survive up there. It's expensive. So I probably got 15, 20%, and those conversations were great. But what I learned very quickly is I've got to reach out in more and more ways. And first of all, I think approachability invites people in, and I think that's important. But also, you have to continue to find ways to do it. One I shared with the admin group today was I started putting in, at the start of my faculty meetings, 3 questions on a note card, okay? And so one of the first slides, we do a couple things, and three questions on a note card. Now, I will tell you, my return rate is about 15%. But for those 15%, that's their thing. And I get great stuff from that. It allows me to follow up with them. Sometimes people will come back to you 2 weeks later, right? But I think you need to continue to facilitate. And if you take that stance, and none of us are smarter than all of us together, you're constantly asking. You're constantly looking for expertise. And that's the heart of collegiality. It's the heart of trust, too. I mean, the key to school growth is connection, and that's not just about kids, that's about staff, that's about everybody, and certainly, here it is, community, too. So, thanks for that question. Yeah, that's good.
So,
Sorry. Yeah.
go ahead.
So this is a big job.
Yeah.
How do you recharge your own battery so you can show up for students every day?
Oh, that's a great question. Family. You know, I've been happily married for almost 3 decades. My wife is an absolute rock and an absolute introvert. So she pulls me into a lot of things, but I always say marry up. My wife is the smartest person I know. That's been a huge reflection point. I love music, way too much of it. I'll admit I spend way too much time thinking about and listening to podcasts about sports. It's a quick battle right now between leadership things and that. And I have 3 wonderful children that, quite frankly, I'm trying to get closer to. Except for my poor son who lives in Door County. I hope he doesn't develop a complex for me moving away. And also just my mom. So my mom's 91. She lives in Madison. She's tech savvy enough to FaceTime me every night about 9:30. You know, about a month ago, I went to visit her, and she looks great sitting in a chair chatting with me at 9:30. But she's sharp as a tack. She's slowing down a little, and what am I waiting for? You know, I see her maybe 4 times a year, and that's not enough for me. Yeah, family, fun, sports. I have to mention too, just because when you're an athletic director, as I was for 13 years, you're not home. And when you're not home, it's hard to have a dog. And my wife and I have always been dog people. Well, we're home enough. We adopted a little Scotty, who's 2, and she's the only reason I would get off the couch to go for a walk when it's 15 below. So you know, it's yeah. I mean, that's been great. Being out and about, hiking, travel. You know, these are the things that I recharge. But I'll be honest. What do they say? Do what you love. You never work a day in your life. Like, it is so great working with students. I think that's been the hardest part about making this decision is talking to staff and talking to students. At a really, well, whatever we want profile, but I had a student stop by the other day, and she's had a ride, ups and downs, and she said to me, like, Mr. Brewer, I'm gonna cry. I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And I was around the corner from my office, like my temporary weird office, and I was like, you know, hey, what, you need to go talk? And she's like, I heard that. So I heard you're leaving, you know? And it's hard. Thank God I've been to schools. I know I'm gonna love these kids, right? But that refills your bucket. It is hard, you're right though. But it's working with kids every day is the best reward you can have. Ryan, I was just talking about, you know what my best day is? Getting in the classroom, seeing kids, watching teachers do their work. That's recharging too. So, yeah.
We got 2 minutes for one more question. Go for it.
Please.
So, you're obviously a finalist, going through the interview process. You've also had the opportunity to interview for your position as well.
Yeah.
I like to take advantage of people looking from the outside in.
Yeah.
If you were hired, what would be the one thing or the first thing that you would want to change? What does the school need that it doesn't have?
Yeah. And by the way, great question. This place is amazing, and the more I peel back, the more I like. But I would say what I've done the most looking at, because it's what I could do from a distance, is data. And the thing that jumps out to me right now is that, particularly at high school, our kids are not growing as fast as you would expect them. We're significantly below the state average on growth. Which is hard, right? You have to look at that, like, wait, our achievement's really good, but why? And that's something that I think, I'll be honest, I wish I could tell you, if there was a silver bullet answer to that, I'd be a millionaire and I'd be on a beach somewhere. But that's going to be the hard work of digging in and thinking about what systems, what supports we need for staff, and what our focus will be. But I know the way we deal with data here, and when we put those goals in place, we're going to turn that around. But that's it, because there is no limit. Everything is here, you guys, for Ripon to be, you name it, best district in the area, best district, I mean, it's here. And I say that coming at a district where I think that team and that staff cohesion has done it up there. Like, go in and look. I've been in Gibraltar from 2020 to 2025. The middle school's moving a little slower than I'd like, but we're moving in the right direction. The high school's exploded. And I think it's about the team. I'm not going to be here and tell you that it's all me, but it has been the ability to connect with talented people. I see that here. With resources, it's here. With kids who want it, that is here, right? So to me, that's it. It's growth. Growth. Yeah.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to transition really quickly. I'm going to walk Jim out, and I'll walk in our next candidates. And your comment was great. Please ask the same questions because it gives you.
I don't remember what I asked.
You don't remember yours? I can tell you. Yes. Yeah. How do you engage with staff, students, and families?
Okay.
Got it. It was good enough that I remembered. Anyway, they were all great.
I had a different one written down.
That's okay. That's okay. I think by asking similar questions, you get a chance to do an apples to apples comparison, which is great too.
Thank you, everyone.
Awesome.
Thank
Jim, I'll be
you.
right behind
It's
you.
great meeting you.
Yeah, great meeting you all. Thanks so much. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, that. Off we go. That is yours, sir. You got it.
Feel free to help yourself to a cookie, you don't want any extra.
Engagement. I'm writing it down.
Very good job. Good job.
Well, see, I don't have to ask him because I know him.
I've been bugging Heather to reach out to you.
Yes, I
So,
just saw
don't
her
worry.
last week.
I will. I'm gonna go. Hey, I saw her again today. I will.
Well, usually I do.
All right. Did everybody get a chance to grab a cookie or some water? All right. Very good. So it's my pleasure to introduce our second finalist for the Ripon High School principal position, Mr. Vince Probson. Vince is going to do the same thing that we did with the last candidate. He's going to do a short introduction, and I will encourage you to ask your same questions. They were wonderful, and it gives you an opportunity to hear what multiple candidates have to say about on the same topics, which are all very important. So without any further ado, Mr. Vince Probson.
First, I just want to say thank you. Appreciate you guys taking the time. I know you guys are all busy, so thank you for showing up at this time to come listen to me and the other candidates. Just a little bit about me. I grew up in Chilton, Wisconsin. After I left Chilton, Wisconsin, I went to Northern Michigan University, which is where I got my bachelor's degree. At Northern Michigan University, I got certified in K-12 physical education, 6 through 12 health education. Took some time in Marquette, Michigan. Went down to Fond du Lac High School after that. After Fond du Lac High School, I went to White Lake, Wisconsin, where I taught PK through 12 PE, and then I taught elementary, middle, and high school health, and then that was where I got my first administrative experience. Got tossed on as an athletic director job, not really anticipating it at first, but they had no one else to do it, and I was the lucky candidate for them. So I got an opportunity to start getting into administration in White Lake, then transitioned when I wanted to expand my career, and I got married up there, and we wanted to take our kids to a different school at that time, so we ended up going down to Randolph, Wisconsin, which is where I became activities director. I taught 5th, 6th, 8th, and 10th grade health, along with did a little bit of PE, and then I did all the activities for the entire district, so K through 12. My wife was hired here in Ripon when we moved to the area, and she absolutely loved Ripon and couldn't stop talking about how great it was. So when the opportunity arose 3 years ago, I did apply here and was lucky enough to be able to have the opportunity to work under Bill Kinzinger for the last 3 years as the assistant principal at Ripon. So that's me. Any questions at all? Yes?
Where do you see electives fitting in the big picture, specifically CTE electives?
Oh, that's fitting. So looking at any type of elective, we know that education just isn't in our core academics. There's also other parts like finance or business, like you teach, that are very important for growing a whole student, right? When looking at that, I see a place for all of our electives to hopefully maintain a healthy number and maintain all of a full course load for every single one. So. Sure.
Are we going in order?
It seems like
We all have our notes written down.
right, you're like, I was after her.
How do you foresee dealing with budget cuts?
As far as budget cuts, well, we try to find any type of efficiency first, right? We don't want to eliminate staff. Our people in our building are our most precious resource. At the end of the day, we don't want to lose them, right? So when looking at any type of budgetary constraints, we try to find any type of efficiency that we can before we ever have to go to staff members, okay? I can give you some examples. For example, just being at Odyssey the last 2 years, I forgot to mention that. Been at Odyssey as the high school principal for the last 2 years, but we used some programs that maybe we didn't have to use anymore because we had humans that could do it. So eliminating third parties that would ultimately help assist in our budget to make sure that we met within our constraints. I mean, when talking about athletics, there's so many opportunities over the past 3 years that we've looked into to not only team up with other like third parties that would help us save money, but then also ways to cut where we really didn't need to when looking at our wants versus our needs. So when doing that, we've definitely had to make some cuts. We've also done a ton of fundraising when it comes to athletics, which has been, it's been a great experience because it's really gotten our teams involved with our community and then our community being able to give back to our students. So we definitely may experience that at some point through our budget. That's part of the cycle. I think Mr. Jonah Adams does an amazing job to ensure that our budget is balanced, and I hope that we never get to the point where we have to start looking at future cuts outside of what we already have. So yeah, I don't ever want to get rid of staff, that's for sure. Our people are important. Yeah.
How do you facilitate school culture?
Facilitate school culture, I would say this. You are the embodiment of your own school culture. And I said this earlier to a group, but what you permit is what you promote, and I've always lived by that. If you permit and you allow something to occur that you don't morally feel okay with, you're implicitly promoting that, because that behavior is going to occur again, right? So in talking about school culture, you have to be the embodiment of what you want to see in others as well. So if I don't like something, I'm going to address it at the end of the day. And it's not that I'm mad at anyone, but what I want is for our culture to be what everyone else envisions it to be as a group, and that's our collective efficacy. And we've talked about that as a staff multiple times, and we've talked about what are alignments that we want, right? What are the processes and procedures that we have from classroom to classroom that we want to see? And I think at the end of the day, as long as we maintain that and we continue to embody what we want to see as a collective group, that leads to our positive culture.
Bless you.
Bless you. Bless you. What is your leadership style when it comes to engaging with staff, students, and parents?
My communication style, you asked?
Leadership.
My leadership style. Sorry. I think at the end of the day, I'm a individual. I always have my door open. I think whenever I've received a call, I call that individual back. I want to ensure that I'm on the same page as everyone else in our group, whether that's our community, whether that's our staff, students. I'm always willing to answer the call. So when it comes to leadership, I'm going to try to always empower individuals to make the right decisions and the best decisions. And I think what you have when you talk about empowering individuals, that's shown in their decision making. You have a stimulus and you have a response, and in between there's a decision that individual has to make. And when they make those decisions, at the outcome, whatever it is, in between there is that thought process or that action, and that's going to be your culture, that's going to be who you are, but again, that's what you uphold at the end. So, yeah, I think that I'm just an individual that wants to empower everyone to make the best decision for the group of individuals that we're making a decision for. So if it's for our students, then I'm going to empower them to make the best decision for them.
How do we navigate the future of education in a universe of AI?
Yeah, I think right now we have a really great opportunity to work with MPTC. Actually, just a couple weeks ago, I was talking with them, looking at opportunities to build the foundations of AI course within our curriculum and within our school. That's something that we're looking into. I think this, Mr. Roos, I think that AI is an amazing tool. I really do. And it can take us to ends that we never thought that we could get to, all right? But we have to develop people who are thinkers first. And that's the foundational skill. And that might mean regression. That might not mean that we don't use computers for certain assignments or tasks that we ask of students, because we want to build those critical thinking skills that we have within our classrooms. And if we can do that, then we can leverage AI, because then we know the why for what we're doing.
So I asked Jim a question because he let us know he was a history buff. What's your favorite thing?
My favorite thing?
Yeah, so not the school, just you personally.
Me
What
personally.
do you have a hobby? What do you like to do? Do you
You
like
know what?
history?
I'm not a huge history buff.
Okay. Sports?
I do like sports. One thing that I've really gotten into lately that I never thought I would is like shop stuff, like carpentry, fixing cars.
Sure. Okay.
I never took a shop class in high school myself. It was something that I wasn't interested in at the time. I took a ton of like math and science courses that were electives, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try this out, because I bought a house when I moved here. That's not a nice house. So I had to...
If it's here, it's one of the old ones, but...
Yeah, exactly. So I've had to navigate that process, and I've actually learned to love it, because it's a whole new world for me. It's a learning process, and I think that's what I really enjoy, is the challenge.
Okay. So to turn the question, I'll just do this. What's your favorite movie and why?
Oh my gosh. I like this. Okay. My favorite movie. Oh. I honestly don't even watch that many movies.
You don't really have time with a new baby.
Yeah, that's true too.
Well, I mean, from since you were little to current, age.
Okay. One that I really enjoyed was, as a kid, I used to watch it all the time, was The Little Giants. You ever see it?
Oh, yeah,
Little
yeah,
Giants?
yeah, sports, yeah.
No? I don't know.
Okay, yeah.
I just thought it was kind of a cool
Football.
underdog story.
Yeah.
A group of kids that weren't chosen to
Yeah.
be on the all-star team, that then came back,
Worked
practiced,
hard, yeah.
worked hard, and then beat the all-star team.
Okay, good.
So I don't know, I was gravitated towards that. And I loved, like, John Madden was in it.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Football.
Yeah.
All right, so I know you and your wife, because your wife is my
Yeah.
son. So I have to ask you, how does being a parent of children that range in age help you as a principal or a vice principal?
Yeah, really great question. So, for those of you that don't know, I have two kids that are my wife's that I've adopted, and then I have my own newborn, it's 3 months old. So, I've never had a baby before. Keegan was in 4th grade and now he's graduating this year. So when we got married, so I never experienced the littles, but now experience it for 3 months. I spend whole days with Knox now, that's his name, Knox, and it just creates a different mindset for yourself when you're in this role. You have I've always had a sense of caring for individuals, but it kind of changes that whole perspective even more when you have a newborn of your own. So how does it help me? I mean, I've experienced now PK-12 teaching. I'm going to experience the 0 to 4, the 0 to 4 as a baby, but just seeing even Keegan and Kaylee develop into who they are, and Kaylee's graduating college this year, Keegan's graduating high school, just being able to navigate all the life's difficulties with them just helps me understand kids better. Sometimes we think of it always through our perspective of adults, right? And we don't always think of it through their shoes, and having them and being able to talk to them and call them and just hear them out, it helps you get into the mindset of maybe what a kid's thinking, what they're experiencing at the time.
So being a principal is a really big job. How do you recharge and take care of yourself so you can show up for students each day?
Yeah, that's always been a little bit difficult for me because I always want to do, and there's not always been a ton of time to recharge. One of the things that I need to get into again more often than I am doing currently, but I used to do a ton of hiking with my family. Just spending family time together, looking at different hikes. I think we've gone to pretty much every state park in Wisconsin outside of like the real northern ones. So we've done a lot of just Wisconsin traveling. I mean, just to get to some of those places, it's a couple-hour drive, so being able to just spend time with your family, those are the things that I really enjoy. At night, it's just decompressing and having fun. It's not work, you're not talking about those types of things. You're just trying to have fun, care for your kids, care for your wife.
As somebody who's been in an administrative role, what's something that might not have gone the way you planned, and how were you able to turn that into like a learning?
Yeah, there's many times that the outcome changes from what you anticipated at first. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. And I think at the end of the day, it's all about reflection, right? Just like in the classroom. Did a lesson work? Did a lesson not work? Why? Why not? Let's reflect upon it. Let's change our practice if we need to, just so that we can become better, because it's all about growth.
Okay, I'll ask because I'm curious to know. What has Bill taught you about this school and being principal in the time that you've been with him?
Yeah, thank you. And I can't say enough about Mr. Kinzinger. He has taught me many, many invaluable just lessons in general. I think 3 years ago is when I got here, right? So I think when I first started, I was a lot more black and white than I am today, 3 years later. Why? Bill has just been a great individual to teach me how to be more, I guess you could say humanistic. Just, we're all humans, we're all people. Let's treat each other like people. And humans, not black and white, right? So that's probably the greatest skill he's taught me. I've always felt like I was a good person, but I feel like I'm an even better person now after being able to be under his tutelage.
So I asked the question earlier to the first candidate because I like perspective of somebody looking in from the outside. I can't ask the same question because you've been here 3 years. But if given the steering wheel, what is one thing that you would change that's as being the principal that you haven't been able to change as the vice president?
I think I would like to dive deeper into some of our data, some of our instructional data. Find out what's working, what isn't working, why it's working, why it's not working, and creating plans as to how we can improve. We are one of the top performing schools in the region. We are number 3 in our CISA, and we are 89th percentile in the nation. We're a high performing school, but what can make us even better? What can take our school so that when our kids leave here, they're going to do things that we could have never thought of, doing jobs that aren't even created yet, because we've given them the skills. And that's what it comes down to. So I'm looking at, you know, what are instructional practices that we can leverage, that we aren't using right now? What AI can we implement that after we have the skills of how to think critically, can we use? So those are the things that I'm really looking at and utilizing the data that we have at our fingertips to then create decision making moving forward.
What does quality professional development look like to you?
Continuous quality improvement, like what we do with our CQIs.
Just in general for professional development.
Okay. Looking at any of our professional development stuff, I like to think of it like this, okay? You're very different than I am, right? So maybe your needs are different than mine. It's not just across the board. It's not a broad stroke professional development. And I think we've done learning walks, and we haven't fully implemented it yet. But when we fully implement learning walks, the whole goal is that we now personalize our professional development within our building with individuals in our building that maybe have those skills that we need. So if you have a skill that you feel like you need to improve upon, that Mr. Roost has, well, let's get you working with Mr. Roost, right? And vice versa. If you have a skill that he feels like he needs to develop, he works with you. So not only are you observing it, you're then talking about it, and you're looking at, okay, this is my instructional plan that I'm using for the week. How maybe can I implement some of the things that I've noticed and learned from Mr. Roost and implement it into this week and see how it works for me. Sometimes it's about being experimental, and it's okay to take that risk, but that's the professional development that I find to be very important, especially when our budgets might be low at times, right? So we don't have to pay someone else to do it, and we have over 60% of our staff that have advanced degrees. We have a very quality staff here, and I want to use the people that we have here.
So I have to alter my question because you already know the staff. But the second part of my question is, how do you create camaraderie amongst your staff?
Yeah, I like that, Mrs. Schmidt. We have staff that have all different perspectives, right? And it's very important to note that you are just as important as Mr. Roost, as Ms. Monet-Bakken, as Mr. Coleman, right? Because every student that walks in our classroom is very different as well, and they all need something different when they walk in, right? So, one, it's about making sure that we all have that same understanding. We might be different, but this individual is important to our staff, and their strengths are important to add to our team, okay? After that, I mean, there's a million different ways that you can try to create camaraderie amongst staff. I think that a very, maybe not simple, but you gotta get everyone in the room and you gotta get them talking, right? You gotta get people to understand common ground, that they all have similarities amongst each other. Because there's something that we share, there's something that me and Alex share, that me and Tanya share, right? So it's about us seeing each other as humans again. Kind of like what I said Bill taught me, right? We all have similarities, we all have the same intentions, we all are trying to get this school to grow, and it's about building a personal connection amongst one another. And we've done developmental designs, right, as a high school with our students. If it works for students, I can tell you right now, if we buy in, it works for staff too.
How do you define like a successful high school experience for a student? What does that look like?
Gosh, there's so many ways to define that because again, every student is different. I'd say this, is the student's needs being met educationally, socially, emotionally? And how do they define that? Does that mean they're taking the most difficult courses, they're getting to start college now, and they're moving on, they're getting a 3+1, and they're getting out of here with 32 credits out of high school for college? Sure, maybe that's what that means for that individual, and that would be great. If it means I get to be a part of 10 different clubs, because we have like, was it 20-some clubs here, 22 clubs. If you get to be a part of all of them, and that's what you really want, that's great. If it's about taking all the additional electives because you want something different outside of the normal school day or like those cores, and you want to take your career down a different path, that's great. So I guess it's tailored to the individual. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. What is it that you want out of high school as a student, and how can we meet those needs? And I think at Ripon, we do a darn good job at that. Academically, again, the average of 21 in our ACT. It's pretty high, right? We have 14 different varsity sports. For a school this size, that's rare. We have, like I said, 22 clubs. You don't see too many schools, again, this size that have that many clubs and that much opportunity. We take trips all over the place. I mean, it's, what we do for kids is above and beyond, and that's a testament to the staff that we have. So they will do anything for the kids to make sure that they have the opportunity and they have that positive experience.
I don't know this question, but if you become the principal, do you keep the 80 rule?
I would assume not. I would assume not. I would actually, can I rephrase that? I would hope not.
Bill had your job before he was the
That's
principal,
correct.
and he gave that so I'm assuming that's,
Yeah.
it goes, but.
Athletics has been fun.
They're separate roles, I can answer that.
Okay.
There we go. I've really enjoyed athletics. I've been doing it for 8 years now. I do kind of need a little bit of a change of atmosphere with a newborn, because when you're here at 7 a.m. and you're here till 9 p.m., that's not the most advantageous, you know, and your kids are part of it. Like when Keegan and Kaylee were part of the teams and part of the sports, and visiting them, or having them be a part of it and being able to visit them while they're at school, yeah, that's easy. When they're not, and you have to go home and you got to take care of them, that's it's a different story. So, would hope not. I've enjoyed it though. I really have.
Does the principal role have any say in athletics as far as like, you know, how much is allocated to each sport? Like, or is that just athletic director?
As far as budgetary?
Yeah, do they have any say or feedback, or is it just, you know?
I would say this. We have to look at our school culture, right? And the principal is part of that school culture. And if they feel that there's something that maybe needs to be changed, it's a discussion, but we let our professionals do their job, right? And if, I mean, I'm always open, like, again, what's your...
So if you were to become principal, and the director came in and, you know, you saw that certain funds were favoring one sport versus others, you could put your say and say, hey, look, let's put this much to baseball, football, you know.
I think it's worth a discussion,
sports.
but again, it's up to that individual, it's their job, right? And I don't want to cross lines. I'll give my suggestions of what I think is appropriate and what's maybe not appropriate, but at the end of the day, they're the individual that's going to have to talk and rationalize their decisions to everyone else, right? They're the ones held responsible for it. I would like them, if that individual, to own and take accountability for why they did what they did, and if they can do that, great. If they can't, maybe a different decision needs to be made then. And that's the conversation that you have. Can you rationalize your decision? And can you stand up in front of everyone? And can you say why? And feel okay with it, and go home and look yourself in the mirror and be like, yep, I did what was right. So I wouldn't want to tell them how to do their job, no. But I would offer my input, and I would also offer any, if they want advice or anything, I would be open to that. Definitely support them.
So is there anything online for access to the public that shows how much is allocated to each sport? Or is that internal?
We have, I don't know if we have anything publicly put out there about it, but we do have an athletic budget that we have that is for us to manage, yeah.
Okay.
Time for one more question.
Yeah.
I find, you know, obviously you're in an interesting situation compared to our other candidates. This is our time to get to know who they are, as people who do know you from the school district. What would be something that I don't, you know, maybe I in a position working with you that I don't know about you?
I like that, Alex. Gosh, I could go so many routes with this. I'll say this, because this is kind of interesting, I feel. Growing up, I was never a captain or a leader of anything until I got to college. I never was a captain of a sports team, despite having success and being able to play college sports. I never was a captain of a club. I was never any of that. I'm the youngest of 4 boys, so I followed my 3 older brothers often, got beat up a lot, and I think I just was like, this is life, I just follow people. And when I got to college, I was afforded the opportunity to be a team captain. I was voted on by the other 100 guys on the team as a junior, and I was like, wait, you guys voted for me? Why? And I didn't understand why at the time. And it took a lot of reflection about how I do, or how I go about my business is kind of, I think, why I was chosen to be in that role. And then I think I started to read. I started to dive in deeper into leadership. I started going to summits when I started to get into education. I really tried to just develop who I was as an individual, because I learned that that's a part of who I am, and it's something that I never really knew I had prior to that. So it's been an ongoing process, and it'll be a continuing ongoing process for the rest of my life, because you're always growing, you're always adapting. But yeah, I was never a leader of anything until halfway through college.
Thank you, Vince. Nope, that's it. I'm going to go one more transition. We have one last finalist to hear from, so I will be back very shortly with Mr. Kriegel. So thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, I appreciate it. Awesome. And you can, everybody's been moving around. Yeah. So thank you again, everybody. I'm very pleased to welcome our 3rd finalist for the Ripon High School principal position, Mr. Kevin Kriegel. Kevin's going to give you a brief overview of himself, and then he's going to answer your great questions that you've practiced up on twice on 2 candidates, and you're going to bring it home with our 3rd candidate. So thank you again for taking your time, and it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Kevin Kriegel.
Thank you. Well, thanks for staying with me until I finally had to go, right? I appreciate you guys coming out. A little bit about me, like I said, I really appreciate this opportunity to be able to speak to the community. For myself, I grew up in a smaller community in Wisconsin, and it was really important for me, the community that I grew up in, and for going off to become a teacher was really a goal of mine, having some really amazing teachers in that community. And I still see myself today, even trying to move into leadership and been a leader, as a teacher first, because our job is always, I think, to teach students wherever position we're at in the school. And I think that's so important that we do that. And for me, my role, as I said, I went into teaching, wanting to be a teacher and a coach, because I had some amazing people and fell in love with it, did it. The first my family to graduate from college, which I was super proud of, and took that into really teaching with enthusiasm. And I became a teacher and a coach at Grafton, and really loved that opportunity, having 3 of my own daughters and watching them grow, and my wife do some amazing things. And soon I realized I wanted to obviously continue to grow and inspire myself to do more, and had the opportunity with our family getting older and my kids doing things. Went into leadership. I worked at Shorewood School District as a dean of students, which was like assistant principal in a school for 2 years. And then all of a sudden, our family had an opportunity where my wife, in her job and career, was given a position to go and study kidney research in the South in Augusta, Georgia. And so we moved to Augusta, Georgia, knowing nothing about it other than the masters. For me, knowing that, that's all I knew, which by the way is a very different picture of what you'd see from Augusta if you were to visit the place. But it's been a wonderful year and a half or over that I've spent there supporting my wife in her career and doing some amazing things in research. But we have an opportunity to come back to Wisconsin, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be in front of you and obviously being up for this position, which I'm excited for, and hope that we can do some amazing things together in the future. So thank you. So who has a question?
There's a few of them out there, Mr. Riegel.
So my question is, where do you see the role of electives in the big picture, specifically CTE electives?
Yeah, so, you know, I look at the school I was at in Grafton specifically too as a teacher for such a long time. And there's such an important piece to opportunities for students. You know, like for me, seeing like my own children and the decisions they've made, and I have one in college, I have one that's a senior in high school, one that's a 7th grader, but having taught thousands of students in my career, I really feel, again, that there's so many pathways that are available. And our job as educators, leaders, teachers, as I said, I consider us educators, is to allow for students to have the most opportunities available to them. You know, I always thought my role in school was I cannot afford to not let kids have as many opportunities as possible. And I think schools need to provide those opportunities because there's so many things that we don't know for, you know, that could be options for them, the students don't know. And it affords us well to be able to give those opportunities to our students and pathways that will be obviously successful for them, that they fall in love with. You know, and not every kid has the same path and journey, and that's what's really awesome about, you know, high school is they're kind of finding that path. And things will change. As you probably know, as some of you adults have changed pathways in your jobs and careers, but you know, our job in this role in high school, 9-12, is to ignite some of that passion and find it for them and to give them the tools to be successful. And I think that's really important that we offer those electives for students so that they can, again, have that opportunity.
As an administrator, how do you envision dealing with budget cuts might look like?
So I think that's always a tough question. I always say you can only control what you can control. I know that this is a question that every district, every school faces in budget cuts. But I really try to say you have to be positive and you have to go forward with whatever you're given. You know, when I was a teacher and a coach, I had certain resources that I had and some things I didn't have, right? As I coached many of my runners and track and field, there's a lot of like intangibles and variables outside of what they can control and they can't do anything about it. You know, it's a small scale, but I always told them to focus on what they can do and be the most successful they can be. And as a leader and administrator in school, I think it's our job to look at what we can do with what we have. And I think that sometimes we get bogged down or struggle with things that we don't have and want. And that sometimes hurts the mentality of the school moving forward, saying it's disappointing not to have everything we want. You know, as an econ teacher, you know, we have unlimited wants, right? But we certainly only have so many resources. And that's something I taught my students, and I think that we have to look at the same thing and parameters for our schools is there's unlimited wants. I would love for every school to have every available possibility for them and resources, because the kids deserve it. But we have to, again, come together as a community and say, all right, how can we do what we have and make it work to be really successful for our school community, our students, our staff, and the community that we live in, and again, push forward to greater things for us.
How would you facilitate school culture?
Yeah, I think that's a really important one, having been in schools for a long time. To me, building culture is about people. You know, I talked earlier today, something that is my philosophy is people over programs. And I think programs are really important in schools. We need them. You know, systematic changes and things that we do within schools are really important. Parameters and structures, those are the things that really help our students. But if we don't build like people relationships, we don't build strong relationships, it doesn't go anywhere. You know, I could have all the amazing things in a bag and of tricks and whatever you think that works, or I could go to a seminar, or the district could hear about all these amazing things, but if we aren't working together, if you don't trust me, if you don't trust each other, there's not going to be a lot that happens. You know, I talk about that as a coach, a teacher, as a leader. My role has always been that I need to build relationships and strong and healthy ones. And that is done, I think, by listening, observing. You know, for me, coming into a new role, this is a very, obviously, you know, established, you know, I think, school district that has, you know, a long history with people who've been here a long time, and things have gone well, and people are proud of that, and they should be. And for me, to be able to learn from that, and to be able to collaborate with those people is really important. And you know, building that culture is all about, again, trying to understand people and build relationships. So there's that trust that forms, so we can obviously move together, not just me moving one direction and hopefully following, having others follow, or seeing the district move one way and I follow that. Like, I think there has to be a collective group that works together in order to have a successful outcome.
What is your leadership style when it comes to engaging with staff, students, and parents?
I think I kind of answered that, but I think I'll build on that. Like, I've always built my philosophy on people first. Like, I try to build relationships. You know, whatever job I went into as a teacher, as an administrator, back to a teacher, you know, wherever that holds me, I want to be able to understand the people I work with. You know, for students, I want to know who they are. Every kid is so amazing and different. You know, I've taught this at so many students, and I've had so many great students still connect with me. Athletes, kids that doesn't matter if they were on my track team, cross-country team, you know, early basketball team as a coach, or some of the kids that I worked with in Charlotte. That now is just not really removed, but I still connect with a few in the fact that I want to build something where they look at that and say, this was a great experience, something that was profound in their life, a positive experience. They don't see school as something that they had to go to or negative. And I think it holds true with the staff I work with. I want them to be able to interact with me and talk to me. You know, one of the things I did in Sherwood is, we talk about open door, but it really was like my door was open, and that's physical open, but I eventually had teachers who had taught in the district for 20 years coming and seeing me, somebody who'd been there 1 year, just talking about their day or unloading a little bit on me, which I welcomed because they needed relief, or they needed to unload some stuff. And you know, building relationships is such a big part of that, and I want to work with that. And I think when it goes to the community piece, as I said, I want to be a visible person. I've always, as I said, as a coach and a teacher, I was out in the community all the time and wanting to build those relationships. I worked with a lot of different coaches in our school, but I also try to work with a lot of community members, businesses, to try to, again, prop up our students and really make them feel like special and amazing. At the same time, I understand that, like, when I was a kid, the community was so important to me. Like, I think the community is such a big part to helping raise our kids and helping us move in the direction we want for, like, our school, our district, and the vision, that all those stakeholders are so important that we need to hear them, and they have such a big voice.
Well, what about parents specifically, especially when you get to this age?
Yeah.
A lot of kids don't talk to their parents about what's going on in schools. How do you engage the parents of the kids to help support that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is communication. You know, I think we as leaders have to actually communicate continually, clear, and consistently. You know, as I said, I worked in Troy, which was not in a high school setting, but having been in a high school setting for a long time, I think we have to keep, as you said, parents in the loop all the time, because I know teenagers, they don't, and you ask them, how's your day? Fine. Do you have anything to do? No. Like, there's one word answers from some kids, and that's not every kid, but I think, you know, for your question is, we have to be a very visible group to our community and our parents. We also have to keep them in the loop and try to get them engaged. You know, one of the things I saw in the survey from last year is, you know, that parents maybe didn't know how to get involved, or they felt like they weren't involved much in the school. And I think my job and my role is try to encourage that by small things, but also making sure that they feel comfortable to do that. Not everyone wants to do certain things in the school. Not everyone feels like they have the time to do all the things. But I think if we communicate early on and also assure this to the parents that, hey, we're a team. We work together best serving our kids by doing things that are best for them. I think parents start to believe that, hey, maybe I can be involved if that's possible, but also by understanding like there's clear communication from our school and our leadership and our staff that, hey, this is what's going on, and you're a big part of that, and we'd love to have you part of it even more.
How do you navigate a future of education given the universe of AI that we live in?
Yeah, so I had a talk with Ron about that as well, and that's something that I have a lot of questions about because I asked him about that myself, and I think that's a great question because as we talked, I believe AI is not going away. I think most of you would believe the same thing. I have a daughter in college, and she talks about AI quite a bit because her colleagues or her classmates are using AI, and some of that they're using is not the best usage of AI. And I feel like there's a lot of eyes of ooh, this is damaging for our educational system. This is hurting the path for a lot of our students because they're using it in ways that they shouldn't, or they're just trying to get obviously answers or push forward things that aren't their own thinking. And I think there has to be some sort of balance forward because I think AI can be amazing. AI is certainly, I think, a tool and an asset that we can use to our advantage, but I think we have to figure out parameters. I don't have the answers because if I did, I think I probably would be writing a book on it or speaking somewhere. But I think schools have to figure out how to harness AI in a positive way. And I think we haven't come to those conclusions yet because it is newer. But I think having a negative view all the time is not going to help AI in the future. It's only going to probably create more animosity or fear amongst, I think, students or staff or anyone. And I think there's got to be a balance, just like we look at any technology that's come out in our age of school. Some amazing things have come out with technology and it turned out to be really good. But at the same time, there's always negatives and challenges that we face. I think we have to figure out a way that they can be like, yes, this is going to help me to make my life a little easier, but it's not going to do work for me in the sense of this is not like plagiarism or this is not turning in work that's not my own. As I said, I think there has to be a collective group of committees or thinking of how can we best use this in our schools? How can we set parameters within the classroom so students are going to follow those guidelines? And I think we have to stick to them. Again, it has to be clear and very well communicated that this is what is allowed, but also this is how we can use it. And going forward, I think it can be really useful. But I don't think as a society we're there, honestly, and I think people are struggling with how do we do that. And I'm on board with thinking like we need to use it, but also we need to make sure our students are also doing work. Students are also individually putting forth the effort and kind of combining that to make sure that it's a useful force.
Okay, so this is off, nothing with academic, it's you. You like history?
I do.
Okay, so you like history, so it's a different question. If you go back in time, any point in history and experience it, what would it be?
Do I have to stay there?
But would you like to stay there?
I feel like Marty would fly to
Favorite point in history?
So I wouldn't want to stay there because obviously I want to see my daughters.
Exactly.
Yeah, great question. A little more alleviating question too.
It's off topic.
Having again studied history, so said, history background. Taught social studies, APUSH, AP Econ, world histories, medieval, ancient. So I've taught every history. So you're putting me on the spot. And it's a pretty amazing question, but at the same time, like, where would I pick? You know, for me, I think because I love medieval history so much, right? I really would look, that's gonna sound a little bit out of the field, but I would look at the time period. I think I would pick probably the Magna Carta. You know, I really love English history. I think obviously as a country we got so much from them and establishing some of the rules and rights. I'm also fascinated with just some of the culture in that period. I would really be intrigued to try to go back and look at the force of the kings and what was going on with the rule. But also it'd be pretty cool to wear some of the swag.
Would you go to Ren Fair?
I do.
Okay, do you have an outfit?
Not anymore.
You can admit it. Yeah.
So I mean, that would be.
Yeah, it's a different period.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool, good. Thank you.
As somebody who's been in an administrative role, what is something that might not have gone the way you thought, and how were you able to turn that into a learning experience?
Yeah, it's a great question. As I said, I've been a teacher a long time, and you think like, hey, I kind of know how schools work. I've been around a lot of administrators, and jumping into that new role, I remember like thinking, all right, I'm going to have these. I dealt a lot with like attendance issues and disciplinary issues as the administrator in my role, and I came out with like a lot of ideas that summer, or a few weeks actually. I was hired a couple weeks before I started, thinking, all right, how am I going to communicate to parents and all these things, because there had been a lot of turnover in the school, so there wasn't like a lot of stuff there. The principal just got hired a couple weeks before me, and so we were both new, and so we were kind of like coming together what we needed to do. And I really tried to assert myself in the way of like, I need to be a leader, right? And so I tried to like go the path of like, I need to communicate and start talking to parents and have all these like kind of guidelines and things I wanted to do with the parents to really get them to see why their kids needed to be there. And I forgot one of the biggest steps is just to talk to a lot of the staff, and like I said, just about that process. I talked to the staff about like school and a lot of other things, but it didn't really click with me right away that those first few days, like I should really back up and look at like what some of the relationships that have been with a lot of the students and the staff already, and some of the chronic absentee issues and how that had been dealt with, and trying to like be gung-ho, you know, kind of stepped on myself a lot in those first few weeks of like attendance. And honestly, it was a learning experience, but also teaching me like, hey, back to when I was a teacher, you need to listen, you need to observe a lot more. Just because you're in a new role doesn't mean you do something differently. And I think I tried to do something a little bit differently at that moment, just because I was like, oh, I need to really deal with this attendance issue really fast, or I'm concerned because students are missing already the first day of school, which happened in that school. Like they were missing right away, which to me is like, what, the first day is the most exciting. And so it was a really eye-opening in some ways of like taking a step back out of body experience in a way like, hey, there's a lot of things that have been done in a really great way that I need to still learn from, and you know, channel those teachers that are, again, they're leaders in their own right. They're professionals that have done amazing things, and I did that, kind of going back to the drawing board, and really I think helped with my community relationship with those parents, like trying to find and talk to them and chase them out. I'd run out to the side of the road when they're dropping kids off because they didn't want to probably return my phone calls or emails. But they started to be like, hey, this crazy guy running at me maybe cares a little bit and wants my kid there. And I found out so many things of why those kids couldn't come to school. And it's not the kids that are making those choices, especially in a pre-K 6 setting. You know, but I don't blame always, it's not the parents always, because so many circumstances they had. That I never even thought about all the things that they have to deal with, and that they sometimes couldn't even get their kid there physically because they didn't have a car, or they didn't want to pay for the bus, or they didn't have the finances to do those things. And getting to know the parents in that light, opened up that sense of like there was a trust that was built, and we had much better, like I said, I would say the last few months of really working together to try to get their kids there, and we did everything possible. I went on my way to try to find gas cards and anything that I could help kids to come in from Milwaukee to Shore that were going to our school that were open enrollment, to really, again, our goal is to have kids here and learning experiences, things they'll remember forever, right? The school is much more than academics. It's a place that they need to grow in. And so that was a big thing for me to understand that.
I think we all recognize that the role of principal is a really big job. So what do you do to take care of yourself so that you can show up for kids every day?
Yeah, I think the SEL component, or social emotional, we think about kids all the time, or I even think about teachers, but leaders who sometimes are like, oh, I don't know what leaders do, or are they just immune or robots? Hopefully they're not, but it's a great question. For me, I've been a runner my whole life. That's probably one of the biggest avenues for me to, like, it sounds cliche, but if I go out for a run, I need that some days. Now I'm getting old and breaking down, and it's harder, but like I said, I try to run my oldest, who runs in college now, but I really can't keep up with her, honestly. But I find that you have to do something now. Like, running, of course, isn't always going to happen. Like, sometimes I have to just go home and talk to my wife. Sometimes I just need to go for a walk. Other times I just need to talk to other friends and people that I've known for years. I still talk to many of the teachers I taught with at Grafton when I started in 2000. People that I've known for 20-some years. I still have a couple childhood friends. One's a teacher. There's a couple that aren't, but you have to be able to unload sometimes, and I think that's really important. So, as you said, I can come in refreshed in a way, or positive, like bringing your baggage or bringing things that are weighing on you. You see that. The staff sees it. The kids notice it. The kids are perceptive people. Like, sometimes I'll have kids like, Mr. Krieger, what's wrong? Like, what are you talking about? There's stuff wrong, though. Like, you have to understand that you have to take care of yourself, because if you don't, it's not going to serve the school. And for me, I try to be healthy. Like, I think that's a really big step, and I think that takes a form for many different people. Like, healthy means something different than everyone, but for me, I just try to make sure that my body's ready to go, but also my mind too, so I can be serving everyone in the community. And it probably isn't going to look perfect every day, but if I bring that mindset that, hey, today's another new day, and we can do this, that's kind of the mindset I try to have.
Got time for one more question.
If you were to be hired, how would you get to know your staff, and how would you build camaraderie amongst them?
Yeah. Kind of a similar question this morning. If I were to, again, get the job, which I'm hoping and enthusiastic for, my first 30 days is really all about observing and listening, because building that relationship is crucial. Like, if you want to talk about, how do you build a camaraderie, how do you, get to know people, they have to let you in. I won't be able to come into this job and just say, all right, here's what we're doing, or these are the directives, or this is the mission or vision, or here's what I've done in the past, and this works. My goal and my role always is to say, all right, I need to get to know these people. They're people. They're humans. They have lives. They have lots of things going on. And I truly care about that and want them to know that I care. And we have to do that all the time in our profession when we think about students, but the staff is a really important piece, because they're the ones in the classroom delivering, and they're the ones who are dealing with kids every single day. Right? And they have to deal with a lot of stuff. And I want them to know that I have their back. I want them to know that I care about them. and that they also can be like, hey, I need to talk to you about something that's going on, and it may not be school related. So whether I can help them or just talk to them, or they can just unload, we can try to work on helping them, and so that they feel like they belong to something that's important, that also that they feel like they are able to share and feel like this is a family for them, honestly. Like I always felt like schools, like my teams that I coach were a family. You sometimes will have arguments, sometimes we'll not get along all the time, but I really truly believe that you always have the best interests in mind for each other, and you want to grow together, and you want to see those around you and our kids experience that growth with you. And I think that that's done in many ways of not just getting to know the staff, but also obviously little notes of celebrations or telling them they're doing amazing. Like, it's amazing what you tell sometimes a person, like how you saw how they did something in class, or you notice what they did and they're like, wow, I didn't even notice you noticed that. They start to be like, yeah, this person maybe does seem to care, or they've seen that this is what's working, and I'm doing a good job. Because sometimes teachers get to sit down on themselves because they feel the weight of the world and they don't know if they're meeting up, especially great teachers. They want to be perfect a lot, and we want to make sure that they feel like, hey, you're doing an awesome job, and we notice, and we're going to continue to do that for our kids.
Awesome. Thank you. If I could ask that you give me 30 seconds to escort Mr. Kriegel out, I just want to give you a quick overview of what we're looking for in terms of feedback. Okay? So I appreciate it. I promise I'll be right back.
Thank you so much. Yeah, appreciate it. You guys had some nice weather today.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not loading. There we go.
Taking feedback on Sugar Bar is going to tell you all about it.